If you had a message for students to pursue, a STEM field, why space?
So I think space represents a technological field for which there's going to be a lot of promise in the future. When you think about commercial architectures that are developing for communications and imaging to image the entire Earth in one day, one company doing that, multiple companies that are going to be doing that. When you think about weather capabilities and a whole host of other capabilities that are developing commercially, I think this is a market that is going to grow. In fact, when you think about commercial communications specifically, sometimes I think space might be on the cusp of where the internet was in 1980, right? So the government came together and they said, look, we need to create DARPA, or I guess it was ARPANET back then, but it was DARPA, the National Science Foundation, came together and they created this thing and they thought it was really neat. Well, what do we do with it? Well, I don't know. Let's see what commercial industry can do with it. And it has transformed all of our lives. Space is the same way. It used to be dominated by the government, and now it's not. It's being democratized, it's being commercialized, and the opportunities that are there are immense. The cost of launch is going down, electronics are miniaturizing, so people are launching things much smaller, which means there's more frequency and more opportunity. So I think space today is kind of where the internet was back in the 1980s, and I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. So I would tell young folks, make sure you're learning math and science because this is where the future is.
Yeah, and in the next 5 years, do you see us back on the moon?
With something. Not a human presence, but there will be some kind of lander, maybe, like you said, a robot, some kind of machine.
Yep.
But I think probably in the next 10 years, we would have humans on the moon.
And what's the first thing to build there?
Well, what we first need to do is figure out what are the elements that are available and valuable, things that are usable. And I think the first thing is water. Water is hydrogen and oxygen, and it can be cracked into hydrogen and oxygen and then used as propellant. Hydrogen and oxygen are the chemicals that power the space shuttle. So all that is available in millions of tons at the poles of the moon. Also at the poles of the moon is permanent sunlight. And so it is possible to have the energy resources necessary to develop energy, quite frankly, on the moon. And because the moon has no atmosphere and the moon has a gravity well 1/6 that of that of the world, it's possible that we could launch those kind of fuels into orbit around the moon, which gives us an orbital depot around the moon, which opens the solar system in ways that we haven't thought of before. And certainly it opens commercial capabilities in ways because now you can have fuel in space for tugs that are maneuvering between low Earth orbit and high Earth orbit. There's an entire cislunar economy that can develop if we can utilize the resources on the moon. I think also there's a potential, although there's more that needs to be discovered, which is why we need to go back to the moon, but there's a potential that platinum group metals are on the moon in large numbers, which are tremendously valuable for fuel cells and a whole host of other environmentally friendly kind of operations. So I think there are reasons to go back to the moon. I think one of the major reasons we should do it is because the rest of the world is doing it. And we want the rest of the world to be with us and not be separated from the rest of the world. We want them to partner with us. Right now, China is making strong moves for the world to partner with China. And I think it's important for our comprehensive national power to have the rest of the world partner with the United States and not with China. And China needs to do what they need to do. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but we need to lead. That's what we ought to do.
Completely agree.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.